Hi, Realtors. This is Lindsay Jackson, your Chief Advocacy Officer at SCR. Thank you all for tuning in over the last day for SCR's annual Capital Conference. Though I hate we can't be together in person, gathering at the Statehouse, I have another special guest with me right now to give us a rundown on the 2021 legislative session and what we can expect in the coming months. So today we are very lucky to have our House Minority Leader, Todd Rutherford. Representative Rutherford, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule today to talk with us about the legislative session. And I've known you for a little while, but I wanted to give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself and what district you represent for all of those who are tuning in today.
Thank you so much for having me. And I apologize to all those people that are watching this because hopefully you're not bored out of your minds listening to this. But again, this is part of the legislative process, and we are so happy that you're tuning into it. Being a realtor is an extremely important job, and especially now during the pandemic and in South Carolina, where we've got a super hot real estate market, and we need to make sure that you all are able to do your jobs without the government getting in the way. And we need to try and make it as easy as possible for you to make as much money as possible, selling as many houses as possible. So thank you all for listening.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time again. And if you're ready, I've got a couple of questions for you.
I'm ready.
So just to start out, following the interrupted 2020 session due to COVID-19, I think it's really an understatement to say that the General Assembly is faced with a lot of lingering issues, from Santee Cooper to the state budget, and all this on top of conducting the regular business of the state this year. So with all that's left to still be done, kind of lingering from last year, what is the House Democratic Caucus prioritizing this year? And can you tell us a little bit more about your agenda for the 2021 session?
The House Democratic Caucus believes that first and foremost, we need to make sure that people are safe and that they are getting vaccinated so that we can get back to business as usual as fast as possible. Along that vein, we were able to assist the Republican leadership with getting the $204 million to provide the infrastructure so that when we get more vaccines, we can put more needles in the arms. Secondarily, we again are continuing the struggle to make sure that regulations in South Carolina don't choke businesses to death. COVID presents its own set of circumstances, but out of that, the reason why South Carolina has done so well, we had good leadership on both sides that made it so that our budgetary needs could still be met while moving forward. However, if South Carolina's businesses are not open and ready, then we're not going to be able to collect the revenue we need to make sure that South Carolina stays on the same financial footing. So that's our secondary issue. Lastly, we always consider education one of those first and foremost things that we deal with. And it's one of those things when you look at even Zillow, as Zillow ranks houses, they go down. If you scroll down, one of the things they talk about is how good are the schools in that area. We know that you can get more money for a house that's in a good school district. We know that the school that it feeds is a very important consideration when a buyer is looking at a house. So part of that is the better we can do at educating our kids and making our schools good, the better you all can do at selling as many houses as you can.
Absolutely, because real estate affects so many aspects of our daily lives. And obviously, kind of just from hearing you talk about the agenda, the theme here is COVID, and how it affects pretty much everything that's going on right now. And specifically, I want to talk a little bit more about how it impacts the legislative process. And I definitely will say on my end, lobbying in a COVID world is new territory. But we're definitely thankful for our relationships with you and with our other elected officials and staff that have really allowed us to be able to adapt to these changes and kind of move forward, despite everything. So what is your experience and thoughts on leading and legislating in COVID times? Do you find that it's been harder or maybe easier to get things done, to build consensus?
Lindsay, it was impossible when we first started. And as everyone out there knows, doing things on Zoom calls is interesting if it's just one person talking. But when you get to other people that have opinions and ideas, it gets to be very difficult. All of our caucuses, mine and the Democrat and the Republican caucus, are large enough that when you've got 40 people, 50 people on a Zoom call, it becomes a very stressful time. I am so glad that we have moved on past doing just virtual meetings and gone to in person, but I'm also sorry that you all as lobbyists, and Lindsay especially, you can't be up there talking to us about what those issues are that you all have on a regular basis. It goes without saying, I believe, and I think everyone out there knows this, that we've continuously looked at Act 388, trying to figure out how to fix it, how to do a better job. And it hurts not to get a constant onslaught of ideas as to let's try this, well, let's look at this. And even with something as important as Act 388, as we know, it still is out there riding everybody. But when you can't talk to people face to face, it's hard to get good ideas from them.
Absolutely. But I will say you're doing a great job, and we certainly appreciate you and your staff for keeping us in the loop and for staying on top of these important issues.
Pleasure.
Just kind of jumping over a little bit, SER, we certainly want to be sensitive to the current environment with everything y'all got on your plates right now, but we do have a few small priorities that we're working on. Hopefully, this legislative session, updating our real estate criminal background check criteria to include Social Security based background checks to accompany our fingerprints, working to address housing discrimination through supporting the removal of discriminatory covenants and restrictions, and also working with the business community as a whole to support the passage of hate crimes legislation. So those are a few things we're kind of looking at, but I want to ask you kind of a bigger question. What do you think the legislature is actually going to get done this year? What do you see happening this session?
Well, it's one of those things where we keep our fingers crossed, and part of that is that vaccinations go well, that we will be able to stay in session and keep doing the work of the people. We've had a number of members that have tested positive for COVID, and it slows us down, but we have not stopped. We've got some meetings that are going virtual. So I do believe, hopefully, if we can get our act together, right now, abortion is up. It came out of the Senate, it's up in the House, and that's going to slow us down. It's not a priority of the Democratic caucus. We'd like to put the business of the people of South Carolina first. So once we get past that, then hopefully we'll be able to stay in session and get some things done. I know Ways and Means has been meeting. We are constantly talking about budgetary issues and making sure that South Carolina is going to remain on a good financial footing. I know that in judiciary, one of the things we're going to talk about is gaming, and whether it's casino gaming or whether it's sports betting online that other states are doing and getting revenue from, that I believe we need to get into as well. Or we're going to talk about medical marijuana and also sentencing reform. We've got a number of issues on our plate, and I think all of them, if we can get them done, will be good for the people of South Carolina and good for realtors as well.
Absolutely. So, a lot of issues out there. Let's talk a little bit more about politics. So, right now, we're seeing so much hyper-partisanism, and on the news and our social media feeds, we're operating in a time where arguably the country is more polarized than it's ever been before. And I want to kind of focus on how that trickles down to state level politics and how the South Carolina General Assembly is not DC, and that y'all are working together to build a stronger state. So, how important do you think it is for bipartisan cooperation to move the state forward?
So, Lindsay, I think that is invaluable. And what people see on the news in regards to Washington is not South Carolina. I am confident that 99% of the people that I serve with, Republican and Democrat, only want to see this state move forward and do better. We may have different ideas about how to go about doing it. And I believe a lot of the Republicans' ideas are wrong, but I don't think that they're misguided in their attempt to make South Carolina better. That being said, my chairman, Merle Smith, and I, we go back decades. The speaker and I came in together 23 years ago. The majority leader, Gary Simmerl and I talk all the time. And we have a great relationship. And part of that is because we may not agree on everything, but we do agree that we need to do all that we can to put South Carolina first and to put South Carolina citizens first.
Absolutely. And it's so refreshing to hear that. The interview I had with Representative Simmerl earlier, he said the same thing about you, that y'all were in constant communication and, working together to do the business of the state. And that kind of brings me to another point, for those out there who are listening, the Realtor Party doesn't see red, doesn't see blue. We look for the elected officials who walk the walk and through their actions display that they're here to make a difference for our state, for our industry, and for our citizens. And I definitely want to thank you, Representative Rutherford, for your continuous support of the real estate community. You really do make my job a lot easier, knowing that I can call you on the phone and talk to you about an issue. And more importantly, I know that you're going to make things happen. So we talked a pretty good bit this afternoon about kind of what you're doing for us, but I want to know a little bit more about what we can do to help support you in the coming months.
One of the biggest things that we've got to figure out, Lindsay, and I hate to beat a dead horse, and we talk about this all the time. I don't know how to deal with Act 388. And I feel like we're getting to the point where it is going to stifle people being willing to sell their houses and people being willing to buy houses, especially second homes and third homes, when they have to pay this humongous tax burden. And at some point, if we are making it so that somebody that buys a house in Richland County or Lexington County, that the tax burden is so much they don't want to keep it. It may be good because you got that churn, but it's bad overall for the people of South Carolina. We've got to figure it out. And I don't know what the answer is. And so I open up myself to anybody that can come forward and say, hey, I think this will work. And I think this will get us over this hump, because we've got to get over the hump. We talked about it, but we just haven't done it. The other thing is we have to continuously look and make sure that the regulations that are put in place, sometimes by bureaucrats, a lot of times by the majority party because they've been in charge for so long, that are stifling our creativity and our business, have to get out of the way. And so please don't hesitate to call me and let me know what will help you all do business better, what's going to help you move the ball downfield. Right now, South Carolina's real estate market is hot. We have a lot to offer. We're one of the most beautiful states in the union. We have mountains, we have coast, we have lakes. And that being said, that's going to make us attractive to everyone. But we've got to do what we can as government to make it attractive to people coming from out of state so they'll spend as much money as they can and help out the economy.
Absolutely. And we certainly appreciate the open lines of communication. And I'll have some literature for you pretty soon. We've been working with the South Carolina Chamber of Commerce on a property tax study looking specifically at 388 and some options to kind of move forward on that. So something to ponder over in the coming months. But I think that kind of wraps everything up. I really want to thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule today. I really love when my members can see what I see every day and the hard work that you put in to keep our state running at the Statehouse. So before we go, do you have any final thoughts or remarks you want to make?
I just want to thank you all for what you do. And COVID was difficult for, I know, all the real estate community, how to figure out how to show a house if you have to wear a mask, or how to figure out how to be that close to someone and even showing a house. And can we do it using virtual means? A lot of things that you all dealt with. But again, in Columbia, I know we've got about as hot a real estate market as we've ever had. It is exciting times. It is a great business to be in. And again, I applaud you. Thank you so much for what you do. And just let me know what I can do to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Lindsay.